Hey there, planners. Today I am super excited to be setting up my 2022 goals in my new planner for next year. I'm also going to be setting up my word of the year. I am using a different format. In the past, I've used Cultivate What Matters power sheets. However, this year I'm going to be putting everything into a single planner, my digital planner for 2022. You know, I've always said it doesn't matter what format you use. It's more about the process of goal setting. And so join me and come along in the process with me no matter what format you're using. It's just important that you're setting those goals. I also have an awesome freebie for you to get you started in your goal setting process for next year and really help ground you in what it is that you need to accomplish and how to set those goals. So make sure you stay tuned to the end of the video to grab that freebie. Go grab your planners and let's get planning. All right, so today I'm actually going to be starting with my word of the year. Now, I have done a much longer video about my process for establishing a word of the year. It starts long before the end of the year. I usually start around September, October timeframe, and it involves a lot of journaling, a lot of prayer, a lot of scripture reading, and just really looking for what is that focus and that word that's really going to help ground me for the year ahead. This year, I actually got my idea for my word of the year from my youngest daughter. And it was in the process of going through the goal setting. I had been praying a lot about it. And when she spoke this word, I just realized, yeah, that's going to be my word of the year. And so I am going to flip open. In my index, I've already added a label for word of the year and goals. I've put them towards the end of my index, and I'll talk a little bit about why as I get into setting them up. But let me go ahead and get my word of the year page. I've got my sticky note there ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that sticky note because it is time to actually do the word of the year. All right, so I am going to start by actually putting in my word of the year. I used a app called Procreate, which is for the iPad, to actually create kind of a sparkly gold version of this word. And you can see my word of the year is poise. And I'm going to put the definition in here as well. I have a bunch of stickers that I've pulled and put together for this setup. The setup is really going to be kind of black and gold themed for this planner, but I've got the definition of my word here, and so I'm going to pull that over and I'll read it here. So the definition of the word poise is can be a noun or a verb. For a noun, composure or dignity, physical balance, assurance in movement, the state of being balanced or stable, equilibrium, suspense or contemplation. And then for the verb, to be or cause to be balanced or suspended, to hold as in readiness to act. And so, why did I choose this word? Well, there's a lot. Just looking at the year ahead, there's a lot coming that could be stressful, could be challenging, and if you all followed my goal setting last year, I had a goal around physical, mental, and emotional health. And in that emotional health part, I really focused on triggers and monitoring how stress impacts me and what kind of triggers me to start to get off balance, and really focused in on that last year. And I want to take that a bit further this year. So you're going to see this show up in my goals as well. But poise, to me, really that equilibrium, that balance, just being mindful. Mindfulness will show up in my goals for 2022, but poise really encompasses kind of how I want to approach and be in the year 2022 based on everything that we have going on. Some big changes in our household, some big events going on, and I'll talk more about that as I'm getting into goal setting. But poise is going to be my word of the year this year. So I'm going to do just a little bit of decoration on this page, and then I will come back and talk about how I move from here into goal setting. All right, so I've got this page decorated the way I want it, and everything in here kind of has meaning to me. It's a bit of a vision board that I put together for my word of the year. So poise to me, I've got the definition in there. It's all about balance and composure and dignity, and I even throw in the word, it's not in the definition, but to me, there's a bit of grace that comes in there, graceful in situations that, are challenging. And, I've got the balance represented here, the grace represented here, trusting the journey, because this year is going to be a journey for us. Sometimes it's going to feel like walking on a tightrope, and that's just part of it. But knowing that it's it's trusting where I am, trusting the situation, trusting myself, trusting my Creator, trusting in my faith, and really just embracing what's coming and being able to be mindful and monitoring how I'm handling all of the changes that are coming this year. And I'll talk more about the changes, but it's really about the big changes to my household and the dynamics. I have a daughter who is graduating and going to be going to college in 2022. That changes the whole dynamic of my household. There are some changes going on for me at work. Just changes with this channel. There's just a lot going on. So really being able to embrace poise and have that sort of filter through all that I do next year. So this is my word of the year, and this is somewhat of a vision board for the word of the year. The next step for me is to start to set up goals, and I have done a lot of pre-work when it comes to goals. And I do want to share one tool with you, and I'm actually going to offer a version of this to you as a freebie. Hang on to the end of the video, and I'll talk about how you can get access to this freebie. But I did complete a life audit in preparation for goals, and a life audit is really just stepping back to take inventory, take stock of where you are. If you think about what an audit is, audit kind of has a negative connotation in some sense. You certainly don't want to have an audit from the IRS, right? Because, but if you think about what that means, digging out all the receipts and all the records and really taking inventory of everything that's there and making sure that there's balance and accuracy, and that's kind of the purpose of an audit. A life audit is very similar, and it's really looking at where have I been? So a reflection of the previous year. What were the goals I had? What did I accomplish? What did I not accomplish? What did what is kind of left over unfinished? How am I feeling about last year? Where did I grow and change? And then really taking inventory of where you are right now. So, from a health standpoint, from a career standpoint, from a hobbies, from relationships, where am I? How am I rating those areas? What needs improvement? How can I improve? What are the priorities in each of those areas? What are things that I absolutely must get done? What are the big items scheduled already for the year ahead? And how do I need to prepare for those? And, what actions do I need to take? So that's kind of the purpose of a life audit. I find this really, really helpful. And many of the pre-printed goal planners have some element of this. So I am very familiar with Cultivate What Matters and the Power Sheets Goal Planner. There's a fantastic sort of life audit process right at the beginning of that planner to help you walk through all of those steps, evaluate each area of life, think long-term, big goals, dream a little bit, look at what's holding you back. And then also there's other versions, like Moxie Life is another version of a goal planner that also has elements like that. Or you can find life audits or examples of how to conduct a life audit just by searching for life audit. I, of course, as I do with everything, did a bunch of research and made my own, because I knew I was going to be migrating to using my own planner as my everything planner and really containing goal setting within this planner. So I wanted to have that life audit step because it's really helpful to, reflect and really get a grasp on, what I wanted to focus on in 2022. All right, so let me talk a little bit about how I'm going to be setting up goals. I have this first page for goals, and this is where I'm going to list out my annual goals for 2022. But then I have also inserted a goal setting insert that comes from a shop on Etsy, Happy Downloads. I'll have this link down below. This is a fantastic template. I've added it right into my digital planner. It is hyperlinked, so I can quickly get to the different sections that I have, and it's handy to have it right here in my goal planner. Now you'll note it's a different background, and so I will have to use, scroll back to here as the cover page to get to my own planner tabs and sections, but I think this is really going to work well for me. Each goal has its own section, which includes a mission statement, SMART goal setting, priorities assessment, an action plan, obstacles assessment, which I really think that is going to be handy. So spending the time to think about what is going to prevent you from being successful in this goal, and how are you going to handle that. Organized to-do list, progress by week, progress, annual goal progress, habit tracking, milestone review, and milestones and photos, which I also think is really cool because if there's a goal that has elements of, something you could take a picture of, that would be really awesome to see. So I'm excited to use that section. And then I've also added in my own Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 goal setting because I do like to have that quarterly reflection and refresh to really make sure I'm still on target and see if my goals need to change. So this is one of the tools I'm going to be using. I think this is going to be fantastic for tracking goals. This, in addition to just the other elements that I have added into my own planner. So after the process of going through the life audit, it became very apparent to me that there were really 3 areas. So 3 goals, major goals that I'm going to have in the year 2022. 3 is a lot lower than I've had goals before. In the past, I've had 6 to 10 goals. This year, I am going just with 3 areas, and those are the 3 areas that as I went through the life audit process, I really identified themes and trends, and I believe these 3 areas are at just the right level, and this is really key when it comes to goal setting. You don't want to have annual goals that will only take, a couple actions and maybe a month or 2 to complete, because that's not really an annual goal. That's kind of, a monthly goal or a quarterly goal. But you also don't want to have it so big that you can't finish it in a year or you can't measure it in a year. And so I believe I've hit that mark right in between, that these goals are going to carry me through the year. They are achievable within a year, and I can measure the progress within a year. They may go on, I may continue to work on them, in future years, but I will be able to measure progress within the 2022 calendar year. I also think that they are specific enough that I'm going to be able to have lower level actions for each month and each quarter. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the product of my life audit and I'm going to go ahead and set up this page showing what my 3 goal areas are. And then I will come back and talk to you about what they are, and then I'll start to work through each of the goal setting pages where I get into a bit more detail. So let me get this set up and I'll come right back and share them with you. All right, so here is my goals cover page, and I've purposely brought in my word of the year because I really think it feeds into my 3 goal areas. I also wanted to make it pretty because I want something pretty to look at because I know I'm going to be coming back to this page really frequently. So I've got the 2022 goals set up over here, and then I've got my 3 goals listed out. I gave each goal a really quick name so that I could easily refer to them if I'm making notes about something or I'm writing something down. I can easily refer to those goals in those 3 areas. So the first area, and I'll just zoom in on this so we can get a good look at it. The first area is mindfulness, and mindfulness is a concept that I have really just dabbled in, and I'm excited to go deeper into understanding mindfulness and really embracing it and seeing the benefits across all areas of health. And my goal here is to develop sustainable, and sustainable is so important to me because I don't just want to, do a quick dip in mindfulness and then move on to other things. I really think, based on what I've learned so far in 2021, just dabbling, that there's habits there. There's habit forming ability to really be able to see sustainable improvements in the areas of health that I want to focus on. So develop sustainable mindfulness habits to improve physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And I always have health goals that are all encompassing, because I think if you attack one area of health and you don't focus on the others, then you really are missing the full spectrum. So this goal is going to encompass everything physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And it really ties well back to my word of the year. So I'm excited about this goal. The second goal is really about college bound. And this is the big change that is going to impact every area of my life, every area of our family's life, and certainly my oldest daughter. So I'm thinking about the logistics, the financials, the emotional changes, the spiritual preparedness, really praying for my daughter, her journey, praying over her, really covering her in prayer as she gets ready to leave the house. And we figure out what family life looks like on a day-to-day basis without her living here. So that's what this goal is all about. It's all about preparing in those areas to send Mackenzie to college this year. And then my third and final goal is called personal brand. This is really focused on this channel, and I want to, just talk a little bit about how important you all, my viewers, my subscribers, how important you are to me. And, I started this channel 2 years ago as kind of just hey, this would be fun. I like watching planning videos. Let me put some out, since I'm planning all the time. And actually, it was my youngest daughter that encouraged me the most to do it. Her words to me were, "Mom, you're doing it anyway. Why don't you just throw a camera up?" Playing around back in the beginning versus what this channel has grown into, it just, I never imagined that it would, I would have a community. I would have people who I feel like I know, those of you who frequently comment and ask questions and, give me ideas. I feel like I know you all, and I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your loyalty to the channel, your ideas, the community that you all are creating together, where we're sharing ideas and learning from each other. I just appreciate that so much. And this goal is about respecting the time that you spend here on the channel and making sure that it gives you the highest quality that I can give, that I'm giving 100%. If I'm going to continue to do this, I want to put out content and build a community that is valuable to you. And so that's what this is really about, really clearly defining what is the Planning Annie brand all about, and making sure to pay attention to the influence, the community, and also the income, because there is a stream of income now, very small, and not really anything to jump up and down about, but there is a stream of income, and I am getting requests from brands to share things on this channel, and I want to be very thoughtful about how I do that, because I value the opinions of the content creators that I rely on for information. I really value and I put stock in their opinion, and so I want to be very careful and thoughtful about where this channel goes from where it is today, and how it continues to grow, and and what it provides to you. So that's what this goal is all about. Those are my 3 goals. That's really what I'm going to be focusing on this year. And so the next step for me is to get into the goal planner, where I will actually begin to break each one of these goals down into actionable steps. What are the quarterly goals? How do I break them down? So let me go ahead and plug in the 3 goals here, and then we will get started on actually breaking the goals down, which is so important to how do you actually accomplish that goal. So now we can get into really setting up action plans for these 3 annual goals. And I am in the Happy Downloads Goal Planner insert. It is in a digital notebook format. It can be used by itself, or it can be used just as I'm using it right now, which is to put into an existing digital planner. What's great about it is it's got the hyperlinks already set up, so I can quickly get to any of the pages that I want to get to. But this is really where the work is going to happen of putting together action plans for how I'm going to accomplish these goals. Now, I won't go too far down the path because I'm going to approach these 3 goals like I do every goal and everything else. I'm going to begin with a lot of learning and research and brainstorming and planning out, mapping out, things like that. That's always my first step. My January is a whole bunch of research and kind of planning out. But that's the way I like to attack goals. So I may learn things through the process of learning about each one of these goals that then change the direction or add new items in. So I'll be putting very high-level outlines together, focusing more on the front end of the year than the back half of the year. So I went ahead and put in the 3 goals, and I've got my links to the goal sections. What I'm going to do with these first few pages, you'll see they're very blank right now. They just have Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 for 2022. I will use these for reflection and resetting when the time comes. So I will go ahead and set up the Q1 2022 as I head into January, but for right now I'm going to focus on the actual goal planning pages. So here's the first one, and I went ahead and put in the goal definition, which is I wrote in the goal, which is exactly what I have on that cover page of the goal section. So this is my goal around mindfulness, and I am going to be developing sustainable mindfulness habits to improve physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. So I'm actually going to step through this process of putting in this information with you. I think no matter what template or goal planner you're using, whether it's a blank notebook or something like Cultivate What Matters or Moxie Life, where you've got prompts, things like this, it's important to define your goal and define the why. The why is what keeps you motivated all year long. So I'm going to spend just a minute putting in my answer to why this goal is important. All right, so I've captured why this goal is important to me, and what I've said is basically that the year ahead is going to be full of changes and challenges, as every year is, right? This year isn't uniquely challenging. It does have its own unique challenges, but it's not, I don't anticipate that it will be, more than any other year. It's just I am more aware of the different aspects that are coming, and all of this could lead to stress and negative impacts to my overall health. Mindfulness habits that are sustainable are going to help me navigate these. And, beyond that, developing those sustainable habits are also just going to help me improve my overall health. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, are going to help me improve my overall health well into the future. As I was really capturing my thoughts here, I realized that I needed to define, because it's still fairly new to me and I'm still learning quite a bit. So I went ahead and captured in the notes section of this goal plan page, I captured 3 definitions of mindfulness to help keep me grounded, and I can keep coming back to these definitions. That's what I'm going for here. And really in the vein of spiritual, emotional, physical, and mental health, really thinking about how I use mindfulness, developing those habits to help me navigate this year and all the years to come. All right, so the next section is a start date and a finish date. We're going to start this on 1/1/2022, and I do want to finish the goals that I set here by the end of the year. So I'll say 12/31/2022. Now, action plan. So this section has got an action plan and a due date. I'm actually going to leave this blank for right now because I think the next section is pretty important to helping me be able to fill this out. So I'm going to move forward in a few sections and come back to this to fill this out. All right, the next section of this goal planner is a goal mission statement, and it has the goal. The goal is important because skills and resources needed to achieve this goal, time frame for achieving this goal, and then I will know I have achieved this goal because this is so important. Being able to measure and call a goal complete is so important. I think this is one of the most important steps in goal setting. Otherwise, how do you know you've actually achieved anything? So that's going to be really important. Reward for achieving this goal. I think that's going to be important too, and I'm really drawing a blank on what to do there, so I'll have to get creative. Challenges and obstacles I may face, and then any notes. So I'm going to take a minute and fill this section out, and then I'll come back and talk about how I filled it out. I think this is a good place to just say again, I'm using this goal planner. It doesn't matter what planner you're using, if you're using a blank notebook, all of these steps are really important to goal setting. And that's the point here. It's not about the planner that you're using, digital or physical, a printed planner, some worksheets that you found, a blank notebook, it doesn't matter. It's about defining these areas as your goal setting. All right, so let me go ahead and take a stab at this, and I'll come back and talk through how I've laid this out. All right, so I have completed the goal mission statement. Let me just step through this with you. Some of this is repetitive for me, so I really just copied and pasted the first two answers in from the previous page, which I will just put a plug in for digital planning. Is so much easier with digital planning, just being able to circle it, copy, and paste it in. But here's my goal again: develop sustainable mindfulness habits to improve physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. I have why this goal is important. Again, this is a repeat from the previous page. It's really about navigating the challenges that are coming up in 2022, but also just that sustainable aspect of improvement in all the areas of health going forward. So I made a list of the skills and resources that I would need to achieve this goal, and this is really helping me to begin to think about how I attack this goal from the beginning. So I need to clearly understand what mindfulness is. I'm still early enough into dabbling into the practices of mindfulness to need to clearly define what it is for me and what it is not. So I'm going to have to spend some time upfront doing that. I'm also going to have to understand how to apply mindfulness to the 4 areas of health and have a list of ways to practice that in each of those areas. So that to me is all about researching and making lists of different exercises to try. And then once I'm able to do that and to start those practices, I need a way to track progress and the results of the practice. What is it getting me? How am I improving, and what is that practice doing? So those are some of the skills and resources I'm going to have to be able to achieve this goal. The time frame for the goal is 1 year to develop and implement sustainable habits, mindfulness habits, that will then carry into future years. And that's really the key. So while I have a 1 year time frame, I am going to need to make sure I have sustainability nailed so that I can carry that over into future years. All right, the next section is how will I know I have achieved this goal? And I think it is to be able to clearly define improvements in each area of health achieved. So what does it look like for me to have established sustainable mindful habits in physical health, in mental health, emotional health, spiritual health? And I put a little note to myself here, these need to be defined. So I need to spend some time working on what those are. That's going to be part of really getting into the goal in January. And then also I'll know it's achieved when I am successfully navigating the known challenges and changes that are coming up in 2022 by leveraging these mindfulness practices so that they don't become overly stressful. I don't feel overwhelmed and out of control, that I'm using the habits that I've established and the tools that I have. I'm going to ask for your help on this one. So, reward for achieving this goal. I am struggling to think of a reward. Part of me feels like the reward is in, the results of achieving it. That I have improved health in all the different areas, that I'm navigating the changes, that I feel better, so I don't know if there needs to be an external reward, but I'm going to ask for your input and ideas there. Leave me some comments down in the comments below about ideas of how I should reward myself if I achieve this goal by the end of the year. I would love to get some ideas from you. All right, and then challenges and obstacles that I may face. So these include known and unknown stressors in 2022. I already know I'm coming into 2022 with some. I know there's also going to be some unknown stressors that that I'm just not aware of yet. So those are the things that could throw me off here. I also am battling a lifetime of very poor mindfulness habits. So I will say that I'm going after an area that I am not good at. I am not good at being present in the moment. And being non-judgmental about what I'm feeling. I do react and get overwhelmed. So I've got a lifetime of bad habits here that I'm fighting, and that is really going to take work to undo or to correct. I also think this is difficult to measure progress, mainly because, I have to hold myself accountable here. It's not like someone else can see me making progress necessarily on this. So I really have to be able to measure progress and hold myself accountable. And then there's a notes section. I just didn't have any notes to add. So that's the mission statement for this goal. Now I'm ready to get into the SMART goal planning. So for SMART goal planning, SMART is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. A lot of this is going to be repeated from the previous page, but I do think there's some interesting aspects here, like defining the impact that achieving this goal will have on my life. I think that's really important. So I'm going to go ahead and complete this section. And then on the next side, there is a place for an action plan. And I think what I'm going to do is really capture what Cultivate What Matters calls starting steps. And so it's not really a full year of action plans, but I'm going to brainstorm some ideas for how do I get started with this goal. Okay, this was actually a lot more useful than I thought it would be. Some of it was repetitive in the beginning, but then it really got me thinking about how to break down this goal. So let's look at how I laid out the SMART goal setting. So this again was a copy and paste. This is the same thing. There is some value I am finding in writing it over and over again. And that's also what I love about this guy, is that I'm actually writing. You can see my messy handwriting, and it does get more messy as we get further along because I'm getting into what I'm writing and thinking about and focusing less on neat handwriting. But so defining my goal again, there it is again, same as the previous pages. How will I measure progress? And this is where I'm saying with specific targets in each area of health, each of the 4 areas. So that is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Really defining what those targets are, and that is to be defined. I liked this question. So the actions and steps to make this goal achievable. I really had to think about what that was asking me for. And what I captured here was being able to clearly define mindfulness in each area of health. That's going to be key. That's going to help this goal be achievable if I have very clear definition of what I mean by mindfulness in each of the areas of health. Developing practices for each of those areas that align to that definition. Executing and measuring results. So putting those practices into place and measuring the results and am I making progress? And then checking progress and adjusting as needed. Those are the 4 steps that I think will make this achievable. I loved this question. Define the impact achieving the goal will have on my life. And so I said, basically improvement in the 4 areas of health, but I'll also be better equipped to manage changes and challenges well beyond 2022. And then I think another benefit that I'm really thinking about is, being present in the moment without being overly impacted by what is happening. Also, I believe will give me a greater appreciation for the many blessings that I have in my life. So just gratitude. I think that is going to be an outcome of this as well. The time frame is 2022. to get all this accomplished. And so then I had this section for action plan. And I didn't really follow the template very well. So action plan, due date, and then a check mark for when it's done. I see myself coming back to this section over and over again, especially each quarter, or using this section as I'm doing each quarterly refresh. I used it as starting steps, and starting steps is a concept that comes out of the Cultivate What Matters Power Sheets Goal Planner, and it's really just how are we going to get started? What are the initial ideas and things to get going on this goal? And so I have more detail in the first quarter of 2022, and I did break it down by quarters. I have more detail here, and then just kind of concepts and ideas in the other quarters, because I think they'll change as I make progress here. So really, this maps out what I need to accomplish in the first quarter, and that is to define mindfulness as applied to each of the 4 areas of health. To develop a list of practices for each of those 4 areas, to practice mindfulness in those areas, to define the measures and what success looks like in each of those areas of health, and then to develop tracking to support each area, so the practices that I'm putting into place, and then to just get started using different practices in each of the 4 areas of health and measuring progress. So that's really going to be a lot of work in the first quarter of the year. It starts with a lot of research and, gathering information, trying out different things. That's really going to be the first quarter of the year. The second quarter of the year, I'm going to kind of pause and look on, evaluate the progress that I'm making, and maybe I need to adjust the definitions as I learn more and as I try out different things and I see the progress that I'm making. I might need to go back and adjust the definitions, and so I'm giving myself permission right now to do that by the second quarter of the year, to come back and adjust as needed. Also identifying any new practices or adjusting existing practices based on the progress that I'm making and the adjustments that I'm making to the definition. So this is really a check and adjust, and get shored up on making sure I'm headed in the right direction. The third quarter, I want to finalize the list of practices that I want to turn into sustainable long-term habits, and that there may be kind of a buffet option there, but as I learn more, I think that will become clearer to me. And I really, in the third quarter, need to start transitioning to sustainable habits, because this cannot just be, if I want to get the long-term benefits, it cannot just be a 1 year, hey, let me try this out for a year. It's really got to turn into those sustainable habits. And then fourth quarter, it's really finalizing the plan for sustainability and setting up 2023 and beyond plans to support those habits. So how do I need to change my annual planning, my life in the future to support these habits? What other external changes need to happen? So that's kind of the game plan for action planning. Now, these aren't specific actions with due dates yet. I'm going to get there, but I think this is a good outline and framework to take me into 2022. Okay, here's a section I'm really excited about, and I think I'm going to start the process today, but I think I'm going to keep coming back to this and keep filling this out as I go through the year. This is called an obstacles assessment, and I've actually not ever used one of these in goal planning before, but gosh, it makes so much sense. I'm really excited about digging into this. So on an earlier page, I identified what might get in the way of me achieving this goal. And you can see I listed those. I had 3 items listed there. I pulled them over, copied and pasted them in here. And they are known and unknown stressors in 2022, a lifetime of poor mindfulness habits, and difficult to measure progress. So the question is, how can I overcome it? So I'm going to spend just a little bit of time writing in some ideas, and then I'll come back and share those with you. All right, I really do enjoy this page, and I think this is going to be really powerful to keep adding things to this as I identify them for this goal. So possible obstacle of known or unknown stressors in 2022. So I know they're coming. I can already identify them. So how I overcome it is really to really stay on track with my quarterly and monthly actions. The whole point of this goal is to be able to handle them better. So I need to stay on track and not let this goal slip. I think I can identify some small, easy to implement practices early on, things that aren't hard to put in place, and leverage those to help me as those, as I'm still developing, practices, mindfulness practices as part of this goal. Use those early small victories to really help me. And then the last one I think is important no matter what the goal is. Give myself grace. I am learning something new here. And so I can't be too hard on myself if I fail early or if I fall short, because I'm learning something new. And I would say that's good advice for anybody who is taking on something new, whether it's a degree of some sort, or a new skill, or a financial challenge, whatever it is that you are planning for in 2022 from a goal standpoint. Give yourself grace to, you are learning something new here, so give yourself some grace. Another obstacle is a lifetime of poor mindfulness habits. I can be reactive in certain situations and get overwhelmed by certain situations, and I know that. And the way I want to handle this is I started working on this in 2021. And if you have followed Planning Annie and goal planning, I did work on triggers and trigger tracking and identifying and learning about triggers from a stress standpoint, and did some really good work there. I want to actually make this work part of this goal and take that to the next steps, which are, why are those my triggers? So digging a little bit deeper into those, because I know what they are now. It's really about understanding why those are my triggers and what are the things that I can do to prevent being triggered or to handle it differently. And so I think I'm really going to make this part of the goal. And I don't know that I would have done that had I not completed an obstacle assessment and really has spent the time thinking about this being an obstacle and how to handle it. So now this gives me a whole nother set of ideas to incorporate into my actions for the quarter and for the month. And then the other obstacle I had was that it was difficult to measure progress. And so I'm going to be getting very specific with definitions and measures. And I'm going to use my monthly goal planning session as an accountability tool, because again, it's difficult to have an accountability partner here because a lot of it is internal to me. And so it's not like others can necessarily see the progress. So I'm going to use my monthly goal planning session as an accountability tool, which means you get to be my accountability partners because you're going to be coming along with me on my monthly goal planning session. All right, so that is actually all that I'm going to complete in this section for this goal. The other pages, this is an organized to-do list. This is a goal progress weekly sheet, annual goal progress for this goal, and then a habit tracker, milestone review, and milestones and photos. So those are all things that I will be completing as I make progress on this goal and get started. But I think this is really, really helpful. These pages are fantastic and have really given me what I need to sit down in January and get started. So I'm going to complete this for that was all for the mindfulness goal. I'm going to complete these same pages for the next two sections, and then I'll come back when I'm done and share it with you. All right, so now I have completed the pages for the other two goals, College Bound and Personal Brand, and I will just flip through what I came up with there. So this is the goal plan. The goal itself is a copy and paste from the previous section, and then I went into a little bit about why my College Bound goal, which is all about preparing logistically, financially, emotionally, spiritually for sending my daughter to college, why that's important. And I really, this is where I get a little bit emotional about it. This change impacts every area of my life. I don't think there's been a bigger change since my daughters came into the world, and this is my first daughter. So, this is such a big change, and I really want to be able to celebrate the milestone and and have joy about, what's happening, and not be overwhelmed by the stress that it could cause. And for me, the way I do that is through planning. And I also think, even as I wrote that, I could see how my first goal around mindfulness is really going to play a big part here as well, bringing some of those practices and techniques into this area, as this is one of the major changes that is happening next year. So start date is January 1st, finish date is the 31st of December 2022. Next came the goal mission statement. And for these two are just a copy and paste of the previous page. This is the goal, and this is why it's important. The skills and resources needed to achieve this goal, I had really 4 here. Steps for physically moving her. So there's just a tremendous amount to do ahead of time, to do at the time of moving, just to physically move her into a college, into a new town. Detailed financial planning, which really incorporates all the college savings, scholarships, all the sources of income and expenses. So really having that is going to be critical to this from the financially planning aspect. I recognize here the tools for mindfulness and the practices that I'm putting into place are really going to help me manage this transition as well. So that goal is even more important given this change. And then also just thinking through all those first, and the holidays, the special days, the first occasions of stuff, thinking through those and having good plans in place, and kind of walking through what is that going to be like, and maybe planning a little bit for that. The time frame for achieving this goal is 2022, so that's pretty straightforward. It is happening in 2022. Up here is all about how I know I will have achieved this goal. And first of all, my daughter will be moved in and have everything she needs in order to thrive in her new adventure. We will have a solid financial plan that allows us to fully understand the financial future and, how we're going to progress through that. And then the third item, I will know because I will have peace and faith that God's protection surrounds her. And so that really covers all the areas, the logistics, the emotional, the spiritual, and the financial. I struggled with this again. So what do I do to reward myself for achieving this goal? I would love your ideas here. If you have been through this and you have ideas for, how did you reward yourself, or how do you wish you had coming through this? Give me some ideas so I can plug that in here. I did capture what some of the challenges or obstacles that I may face could be. Just the complexity of the financial scenarios. It's difficult to navigate because it is so complex. Fear is a very real obstacle. There's this is my daughter, and, sending her out into the world. There's a fear there. It's irrational, but there is a fear there. So that is a challenge. That could be an obstacle for me. And then not sure where she's going to be moving to. We won't know yet. So it's kind of difficult to get started planning because I don't really know what the destination is. And then the time off that I will need to get all of this done and get her settled. So I didn't have any notes in this section. So that's kind of the goal mission statement. The next step was to walk through the SMART goal planning. This first one is around really defining the goal. That is a copy and paste. How I'll measure progress. That comes right from the previous page as well. And that's all about getting her moved in. She has everything she needs to thrive, just solid financial plan, and peace about the situation. Again, I really found these two questions helpful. So what actions or steps will make this goal achievable? And really having a thorough, all-encompassing countdown and checklist, I think, is really going to be needed so that I have the master picture of everything that's needed. A prayer plan. I think that's going to be really important for me to have that prayer plan that really carries me through the year. And then the financial game plan. And that really covers all the areas. So having those 3 in place is what's going to make this achievable. The impact. So the ability to have peace about this transition and really fully experience the joy and pride. That's that's what this goal will do. This is how it will impact me next year. So that's very motivating to write. Time frame, of course, is 2022. I did the same thing on this page as I did on the previous one, and instead of doing specific actions with due dates, I actually I took the time to map out, based on what I know right now, how I would lay out quarterly goals. So the first is first quarter of 2022, and that's really about those starting steps moving into ideas for the remaining quarters. And the starting steps are really finish reading this great book, College Conversations. I'll have that listed down in the description box below. But to finish that, to research financial plan templates and really get that finalized and in place of the first quarter, develop a prayer plan for the year, and develop time-based master checklist. I think those are kind of urgent, like I need to get those in place as soon as possible. So that's really first quarter. Second quarter, check and adjust on the financial plan, start executing the checklist, and that is really going to drive the goals for the remainder of the year. Just a couple of things to think about in Q3 and Q4. A lot of these have to do with those the timeline of activities, moving her in the third quarter, planning for holidays and birthdays and firsts and all of that stuff. And then in Q4, really thinking about incorporating what I need to in 2023 planning. So that is the SMART goal setting worksheet. And then I also went ahead and did the obstacle assessment, which again, I thought this was really good. Complexity of the financial scenarios was one of them I had captured. I think just research and the time to spend researching the different templates, using the resources that I have, the book that I've already been reading, and then reaching out to a financial advisor if needed. That's always an option as well. For fear, so pray without ceasing, using the mindfulness habits, and really tailoring Bible studies for this. I think that's going to be important, and I'm actually going to include that as some of the goals. Not sure where she'll be moving. Well, I can just go ahead and research those top 3 choices and start high-level planning. It's not going to cost me too much additional time to do that. And then time off needed to settle her. I can schedule that time pretty early in the year and go ahead and have conversations at work about the time that I'm going to need off in the time frames that I need it. So that's not going to be difficult to handle at all. So that is the second goal. And then the third goal is the personal brand. And so here's the goal, again, written clearly defining the personal brand to grow influence, community, and income of Planning Annie. And I talked a little bit about why this is so important to me. I really highly value and appreciate the audience for Planning Annie, and I want to deliver meaningful, valuable content to the audience, to you, for a long time. So I want to keep doing this. I really pour my heart into this channel and I enjoy it, and it's an outlet for me, and I love hearing that subscribers and watchers are getting value out of it. So I want to keep that going for a long time. So I think that really developing the personal brand and kind of getting a game plan around that is going to be important to just future growth. Start date is January 1st. End target finish date is the 31st of December next year. And then I did go ahead and add in the notes just a couple definitions. So I've got 3 areas mapped out in this goal, and that's influence, community, and income. I defined these because I think it's important to keep myself grounded in what I mean by that. When I say influence, I really mean the breadth of audience that's reached by Planning Annie content. When I talk about community, I mean the level of engagement. So how much are we engaging with each other? How much are audience members, subscribers engaging with each other and learning from each other? That's all part of community. And then income is really the total financial picture, income and expenses from Planning Annie, and really getting my arms around what does that look like and where does it need to go. All right, so that is the goal plan. The mission statement. These two are exactly the same. This is the goal. This is why it's important. For skills and resources needed to achieve this goal. really understanding what is a personal brand and how to holistically build one. Measures and metrics for influence and community, I think, are going to be important, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the coming sections. But the other aspect is how to track and report total financial picture for myself and anywhere else as needed. 2022 is the time frame for this goal. And then I came over here and I talked about how I will know I have achieved the goal, and I did put some numbers in here. So I wanted to get very metric specific here. Growing Planning Annie to 10,000 subscribers by the end of next year. That feels ridiculously impossible right now, but just doing the math, I think it's might be within the reach of achievable. I don't know. That just even writing that makes me scared. But I'm going to leave it for right now. I can always come back and change it. For community and engagement, achieving 30,000 hours of watch time in 2022. That's just slightly above what I've had this year, so I think that's an achievable goal. Sustainable system for tracking and reporting income and expenses. That's really that holistic financial plan. And then to go along with that, and that's really why I'm focused in this area, a clear methodology for evaluating new affiliate programs and partnerships. I am being contacted on a very regular basis right now by companies or individuals who want to partner with me as Planning Annie and have some mention of content or use of content, use of products on this channel. And I've just been really, really careful, and I really want to have some methodology and guidelines for myself about how I do that, because it really needs to align to what you as subscribers and what I, as the creator here, what this channel is all about. So that's really the basis for the financial goal. Once again, I cannot come up with a reward, so I'm asking for your ideas here as well. One thing that I did think about, so I have never been to one of the large planner conferences like PlannerCon or I'm trying to think of what some of the other ones are. I have always kind of wanted to go to those. It's expensive because they're like in Texas or California, and those are long way from me. But I think maybe that might be one, a possible reward. I don't know. We'll see. But I would love to hear your ideas for that as well. Challenges. So some of the obstacles that may face me as I'm on the way to this goal. I am already very busy in 2022, as you see in my other goals. So the challenge is, am I going to have time to really commit to these goals, to reaching these goals, and that progress? The other thing is clearly understanding what you all expect and aligning that to the brand, what I expect from this channel. And then the third item is staying true to the original purpose of this channel as it grows. And I know that's going to get harder, and that's why I want to spend the time to really formalize the foundation at the point where I am now. Okay, so that is the mission statement. Next up was the SMART goal setting. So specific and measurable are the same. Those are repeats from the previous page. Achievable. Define actions and steps to make your goal achievable. What I thought here is really defining the personal brand and developing it. I think that is going to be foundational to achieving this goal. Establishing a financial tracking system, learning to interpret the analytics, because so much of the information about how your channel is doing and what is causing it to grow is buried within the analytics, and I don't always understand what it's telling me. So I need to learn to interpret the analytics that are part of YouTube and the YouTube studio, really understanding those. And having an evaluation tool for new opportunities. That's really going to be key as well. Defining what this means. So what does it mean for me to achieve this goal? Planning Annie is my outlet. It's my passion, and I want to keep doing this for a long time. I want to keep helping others, with planning ideas and, that foundational information, new ways of doing things and approaching things. I want to keep doing that for a long time. So in order to do that, I have to put some time into the foundation up front. All right, time bound 2022 is the time frame. All right, same as the other two goals, I spent this page really focused on how to break down potential ways to attack this goal by quarter. So first quarter, really researching and developing a personal brand, as that's the foundation here. Also looking at ways of holistically financial tracking, and then learning about the analytics. I really need to understand what the analytics are telling me. In 2022, developing new opportunity evaluation criteria that I can start to put in place, making updates to the channel based on the personal brand and aligning the two. I need subscriber feedback. I'm going to need feedback from you all on, am I hitting the mark with aligning the personal brand to the channel, to what you all expect? And then developing actions based on what I learned from analytics. Q3 is really about identifying income opportunities that align with the channel and will bring the most value to you all, and implementing actions based on analytics, and then measuring analytics actions and preparing for 2023 goals. All right, so the last part was the obstacle assessment, and I did capture those obstacles. I'm very busy. My plan for how to overcome that is to schedule it, to lay out a detailed plan for content and personal brand. And I need to be flexible with myself. I have good prioritization tools. I use them all the time. I need to trust those tools. Clearly understanding what subscribers expect from Planning Annie and aligning a brand to it. Well, I think interpreting analytics correctly is going to help me do that. So I need to educate myself on analytics, how to interpret them, and develop actions from that. And then I also need to engage you all to validate that what I'm seeing in the analytics is accurate. So stay tuned for that. I'll be asking for some validation. And then finally, staying true to the original purpose of this channel. I think that's the whole reason for this goal this year. Really formalizing the original purpose and the intent, the guardrails that I want to put in place by putting them in a personal brand and documenting it, having it ready to reference when I need. So that concludes the goal planning session for 2022. I really hope you all enjoyed seeing the process, how I go about planning for goals, beginning with my word of the year, really formalizing the goals, all of those aspects. And I want to offer you, because so much of what I did today, I actually did the heavy lifting and work in my life audit, which was a bunch of scratchy pre-work, right? I did a lot of heavy lifting there, and a lot of ideas come out there that then I just formalize and put in the right places in this part of the process. I want to offer this to you as a freebie. I'm going to make it available to you on the links on Planning Annie on Instagram. If you follow the links to freebies, I'll have it listed there through the end of January. That way you can, if you get a late start on goals, that's fine. It'll be there through the end of January. It's a PDF format. You can print it out. You can use a digital version. You can print it in different sizes to fit in your planner, however you want to do that. But I highly encourage you to do that. It takes some time. It actually took probably 3 or 4 days to get all the way through it, because it's a whole bunch of questions and a whole bunch of writing and deep thinking, and but it's so worth it, because you get all the ideas that you need to then organize into your goal setting. I hope that you enjoyed all the, the new tools that I'm using, and I would encourage you, no matter what tool you're using, go through the process of defining your goals, looking at action plans, developing measures, really thinking about the obstacles. All those are very important regardless of what tool you're using. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to Planning Annie for more content like this. Stay tuned for more goal planning every month. And as always, thanks for planning with me.